What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Hello, we are live again tonight with the CFF All Access Show. My name is Josh Chevalier at CFF Guys on X. And I got my boy Dan Brown with me tonight. And I'm so excited to have you on, Dan. I think this is your first Underdog CFB Best Ball. Is that correct?
It is, man. It's time. First off, thanks for having me on, man. You shot me a message earlier this week, said if I wanted to join you or not. I said, hell yeah, let's do it. It's time for me to kind of switch my peripheral vision kind of more towards college football at this point. I've been deep in the weeds with the WNBA what seems like the last couple months at this point. And now here it is. CFB season is in the air. Underdog has graced us, with a wonderful kickoff here to really get the season going. I mean, a huge step for the game. We love to see the game grow each and every year. And here it is right here knocking on the door, Josh. I'm happy to be here. Let's get one knocked out tonight.
Yeah, man. I'm loving this. We'll dive right into it. I'll take the reins here a little bit tonight, and we'll kind of talk a little strategy as we enter into this. We'll see how long it takes. Hey, if you're listening, you want to pop on with us. Last night we had 3 or 4 spots that were open, and so feel free to jump in and do this. I think right now we're at 6 people, so we're about halfway full. Yeah. So we're at 5. We got 5 spots left, so you guys got to get in there quick.
Hurry.
Yeah, Dan, I've done 3 or 4 of these now live and a couple others, and it's really interesting to see different strategies that people have gone with. I did one late last night that was a 2 QB early on and 2 wide receivers. So first 4 rounds, I filled up those spots, and I really liked the way that build shaped up overall. And so I think we're going to try to go with that tonight. See if we can't get 2 QBs early on and in the first 3 rounds, and then 2 wide receivers in the first 4, and then go from there. Try to load up on running backs. I've seen running backs be, pretty. It's a much deeper position, I think, than there is quarterbacks and wide receivers, and so I really like going that, and we'll see how that goes. Do you have any ideas of the ways that you thought you would want to go, kind of as you dove into this, or you kind of really open to whatever?
I mean, I'm very flexible, open to whatever. But one thing is that week 12 bye and being aware of the guys that we're getting. And I heard you and JD kind of cutting it up a little bit and finding those late round gems that can maybe help you fill that week 12 bye. If say you end up with 2 or 3 of your guys in the first 5 rounds that could be looking at that week 12 bye. I think finding those couple of gems that can be there to alleviate a little bit of that pressure off of those first few picks can be crucial down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely something you have to pay attention to, especially early on. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is usually going as the first QB, but he's got a week 13 bye, right? And so he's got a playoff bye. You have guys that I've been targeting. Jackson Dart has a week 12 bye, that first week of the playoffs, and then you also have Jackson Arnold in the week 12. So there's quite a few. There's 7 or 8 QBs at the top that I really, really like. But, there's a few of those that have week 12 buys. You just got to watch out for it. Last night we did it with Jackson Dart and Jackson Arnold. Found both those guys with week 12 buys, and we had to figure that out. So it'll be fun to navigate that. We got a comment here, and he says, I think you need 4 QBs by round 14 in the latest, or else it's desperation time. I think the optimal build is 4, 6, 7, 3. I like that build. I think, to be secure is really good. I've been going even 5 QBs. I think it depends on your bye weeks, right? So you definitely got to navigate that. But I like that idea for builds. Do you have an idea of what you're looking at as far as positions go? Or not positions, but like the breakdown of number of players you want to need each position going into this?
I like to stay flexible, depending on the guys that I'm picking is kind of going to set up what my parameters are going to be. If I'm getting a couple of these stud running backs in the top 4 rounds, I may only end up with 5, maybe 6 on the roster. But if I end up putting running back, to the 5, 6, 7, 8 round, I may end up with 7 or 8 running backs at that rate. So it just kind of depends on where I go. Tight end, the same. If I'm spending capital on one of these top 3 tight ends, I may wait and then just take one more flyer. Two's kind of where I'm leaning towards. But if three needs it, then I'm willing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people go 2 tight end builds, and I like that as long as there's no injuries. But then, man, you have an injury to one of your tight ends, and you're gonna be screwed on the bye weeks, and you just never know. I mean, we are talking about the sport of football, so injuries always pop up. I'm just here. I'm filling up our queue a little bit so we don't get caught, uh,
Yeah.
with nobody in there to start this draft, and we'll kind of go from there.
Which
Yeah,
which
go ahead.
position, Josh, are you finding you're able to really kind of wait on and still take value a little bit later on in the draft? Which position do you find yourself more willing to wait on than others?
Yeah, I think 2 positions that you can wait on are running back and tight end. There's good value. I mean, I've seen a lot of people go Rondé Gadsden early, but I like the tight ends 2 through 5, 6. And you can get those, a lot of them rounds 10, 11, 12. And then running backs as well, man. Like rounds 7, 8, 9, 10. There's great value at the running back position. So both of those I think you can wait on. And then again, you're just navigating buys, especially with this format, right? Where you have weeks 12, 13, and 14 are those are the playoff weeks, those are the money weeks. So yeah, it's interesting. I've loved, this format so far and just learning as we've kind of got this. We got one person we're waiting on in here, and then we'll get things kicked off.
What draft slot are you hoping for before we find out?
I'm hoping for not the 1.8. I've literally gotten that 3 times in a row. So anything but the 1.8, I will welcome. I do think early on, right? I mean, if you can get an early draft slot, I think that is pretty helpful. But I'm good with whatever. You have one that you want?
I've seen more that are later. I think I wouldn't mind getting an early one, but that late draft slot feels kind of advantageous as well. Just depending on what you're looking to do with your build, and that's part of the game. Getting to see what you can do from different slot selections. So
yeah, all right,
1-3.
Yep, we got Fear My Turtle in here with us, Carp Golf, and then we are 1.3. So we could go. We could try to go Dylan Gabriel early if we wanted, or we could wait on the quarterback and try to snag 2 at the end of the second, third, and then hit, either Teta Roa McMillan or Lutheran Burden. So quarterback or one of these wide receivers.
I think I'd lean into the wide receiver a little bit more here and be more willing to see what falls to us there at the 2-3 turn as far as the quarterback selection goes, and kind of make a decision from there. Obviously I'd like to get one and hate to see a bunch of the top tier guys go off the board here, but just for a build sake, I wouldn't mind grabbing one of these top wide receivers here.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Say T-Mac goes, Luther Burden goes, and we're faced with Ollie Gordon or Dylan Gabriel. What do you want to do?
I could be swayed to go Gabriel in that instance, and maybe we could end up getting a stacking option with him.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna have to make that choice. Ollie Gordon just went number 1 to Fear My Turtle.
Let's see what Carp does here. I love both these guys. I don't think that there's a bad pick with either Burden or McMillan here. So, being an SEC guy, I kind of lean towards Burden a little bit, but
yeah. I mean, also you got Burden.
Carp went
Burden. You got South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas in the championship. We'll go Burden here.
I love it.
I mean, I'm a huge T-Mac fan as well. Let's see what Arizona. I didn't have time to look up. They got Houston, TCU, and Arizona State. So also pretty favorable in the playoffs. But yeah, tell us about, other than being an SEC guy, why do you like Luther Burden this year?
I like what I've seen from him over the course of his past season and just the explosiveness. I mean, he's a guy that can just come onto the field and command targets. He's super explosive. And I mean, a couple of times last year, I know he broke the slate wide open. So I think that offense takes another step forward this year and continues to look to him to lead that passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, he did struggle a little bit down the stretch, right? But he hurt his ankle, I think, like week 6 or 7, and I think that really affected him the rest of the way. But I'm with you, man. A healthy Luther Burden is just incredible. Yeah, I really like that pick. I think too. I think again in this format, you're going to want to consider weeks 12 through 14, right? Because those are the money weeks that you have to have, big weeks from your best guys. So really like that. Oh, we got Wakey Wakey is in here as well. So we got a little stacked room here. Lots of good guys. Father Whale also is drafted in here. So I'm gonna pull
Yeah.
up the draft board so we can see who we have going. We picked Luther Burden at 1.3, and then from there, T Mac, Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, Jackson Dart, and then Devin Neal and Jalen Milrow and DJ Giddens, right? So we got Father Whale up. We'll see what he does if he goes quarterback here or goes at a skill position. I'm curious to see. So we got 3 quarterbacks that have gone off the board so far. I think there's 8 or 9 that I really feel comfortable with.
I think we should have a shot at least one of them, if not 2 of them, here at this turn. And if there's 2 that we like, I don't mind doing the bang bang there.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna pull up these quarterbacks. Yeah, I think we have them all queued up here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are left in here. If not, I think we could also kind of throw Kyron Jones. Another strategy that could be interesting, but got to be careful, is kind of waiting on a guy like a Jalen Daniels that can have some upside later.
I love that. I think Jalen Daniels is a guy that I really like targeting there in that range. But you got to play the board, see what the quarterbacks are doing, and you may end up having to get them a little bit earlier than you want.
Yeah, we were planning on going quarterback last night, and then actually this was in the one draft I did after that, a late one. I got Evan Stewart at like pick 2.4, 2.5. So I thought that was really good value on him. We just saw him go in the first round here, and then had Jackson Dart in the first round. So that was a place. Yep, man. Yeah, Avery's a guy that I can see continue to go up. I mean, he's a guy at Kansas State. Even in his playoff schedule, he's got week 1, he got Arizona State, and then Cincinnati and Iowa State. So it's a nice little schedule there. So Wakey Wakey, I've been in a few drafts with him. He loves to go 3 QBs in the first 4 rounds at least. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him take another one here. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 6 quarterbacks gone already.
Yeah.
So we got 3 left in our queue that I think would really like in this range. Draft is going pretty quick. Darius Taylor, Trey Harris, Restrepo just went. So we got 3 picks till we're up. And so we'll at least get one of these QBs that we like here. Imagine
Jackson Arnold.
Yep. You want to try to just scoop up Jackson Arnold here?
Yeah, let's get Jackson Arnold, man. I'm on the train.
Okay. Little early ADP wise, but I think he's a guy as far as the skill position here that we could, there's not a lot left. Jaden Ott is another one. Man, I feel like he's fallen a little bit here in these drafts. So I'm not really sure what people have against him. His playoffs are Syracuse, Stanford, and SMU, which is a great little run there that he'll have. So we'll see. We got Taj Brooks over here. We could add him to our queue. Jeremy Bernard.
My boy Eugene Wilson.
Yeah. He's been falling a little bit. So Fear My Turtle, man, just stacked up
Shows the board.
The running backs here. Ollie Gordon, Jaden Watt. I mean, that's a great way to let the board fall to you.
Yeah.
Really like that pick.
That's a nice start right there.
Yeah. I wonder if he comes back here with a quarterback here. Probably doesn't like the value, I'm assuming. So, okay, he goes Gadsden, Kyron Drones. So we are up. We got Cam Ward or Jalen Daniels. We could go Taj Brooks here, Jeremy Bernard.
Mm,
Do you want to stick with 2 QBs or?
I wouldn't mind waiting to see. Do you think Daniels has a chance to come back around to us?
Oh yeah, Daniels isn't going to like 6th,
Okay.
7th
Well,
round.
yeah. Then let's lean into the running back here.
Okay, I went ahead and took Taj Brooks there.
Yeah. There
Um,
you go.
yeah, he's a guy that had I think like something absurd, like 300 carries last year. Doubt he gets that again, um, but man, in a half PPR format to get a running back that has that many carries is really good. And then there's plenty of like Eugene Wilson has been falling a little bit here as of late, and so we could try to go back and target him or Jeremy Bernard, Damian Martinez. He's got a week 12 bye, and so I think that's been affecting his, his status and what people think of him. But I don't know. Did you see what Nick Saban said about CJ Baxter?
I did. And so I think Baxter's going to be rising a little bit here naturally.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everybody what was said about him?
I'm trying to remember where we dropped it.
So, yeah. Well, so Nick Saban said that CJ Baxter was the best running back that they faced last year, which was just a crazy quote from Nick Saban. That guy, obviously in the SEC, they see a lot of good running backs. And so to say a true freshman in week 2 of the season is when he saw him, for him to say that CJ Baxter was the best and CJ Baxter gets hurt that game and Jonathan Brooks takes over. And we know that the season that Jonathan Brooks had. So, super high praise for CJ Baxter. So he's another guy I wouldn't mind, on the back end, seeing if he could fall to us.
There goes Martinez, Father Whale.
Yep, that's good value there for him. Hey, real quick while we got, I think we got 10 picks before we pick again. We have a special deal with Underdog here at Fantasy Points that you can go on and you can deposit up to $500 and get 50% matching on that. So $250 free from Underdog. And then also a college football subscription, you get $55 off. And so the promo code with Underdog is FantasyPTS. And so you can put that into Underdog, claim that code, and then come back to Fantasy Points to get $55 off the college football only subscription. So we got DFS, CFF, season-long stuff. We got Underdog. We have rankings, projections, all that stuff. Our rankings last year were the tops in the industry, and so we're really excited for this next year. Excited to see what we can do, and would love for you guys to join us. Our Discord is hopping. Dan, you want to talk a little bit about what that Discord's like on a Saturday?
I've said it a bunch of times. The Discord is hands down the best part of anything that Fantasy Points has to offer. We have so much fun in there, and yeah, you got your typical large crew that's in there on Saturdays and then Sundays for the NFL action. But your true degenerates are in there every single night of the week, breaking down Maction each and every night, just digging on Twitter and any other crack or crevice that we can find, just a tiny nugget of information, looking for that edge. I'm ready. We're back in the season again. It felt like we went dormant there for a little while, but here we are popping back up, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun season. And yeah, man, I mean, in college football, injury news is everything. Right. And, playing DFS, you have to be up to the minute on that stuff. And so our Discord is on the injury news. And so not anything goes by our people. And so it's really fun to be in there. And, even beyond that, it's been a really good community, I think, for all of us to be a part of. So, yep. All right. So I say we try to wait on Jalen Daniels a little bit. And
which running backs are available right now?
So at the top is Abusama, Gavin Sawchuk. I'm kind of thinking we should go Deion Burks here. He's a guy that I've liked quite a bit. I mean, he had a huge spring game and looked pretty good. We pair him with Jackson Arnold, right? Yeah. So, and I actually, we could come back with Abusama here, but I actually don't mind trying to get Isaiah Bond.
I know you're a Bond guy.
Yeah. And Mike dropped a nugget on our show on Monday night where he talked about Steve Sarkisian has one of the highest target rates for wide receiver ones in his system. And right now we have, Isaiah Bond projected as a wide receiver one in that system. So, if you don't mind, I kind of want to try to wrap up.
Let's do it. That's a stout wide receiver start right there. So let's lock it in.
Yeah, we got 3 wide receiver ones, and as we're going to see later on in this draft, wide receiver is a position that just takes a ton of hits here, and later on it dries up pretty quickly. And yet, I'll even start to fill back up the queue. But we got like Basil Tootin from Virginia Tech that a lot of people are pretty high on. Jaquavius Marks, Trevor Etienne. We got Trevion Henderson, who averaged 20 points a week last year with Ohio State. Kyle Monungai.
So many running backs.
Yeah, even down here, you got Nick Singleton.
Scatbo.
Yeah. And these are guys that are going, again, like 8th round. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. So you really have a lot of options. And so we'll talk about a few of them here in a minute. So far, let's look at our board. We got, we started off strong with a QB. With Luther Burden, then came back with Jackson Arnold, and then Taj Brooks in the 3rd round at running back, and then solidified our wide receiver room with Deion Burks and Isaiah Bond. You only have to start 2 wide receivers. And then and 2 running backs. But it's a flex, so you can have 3 wide receivers. But again, to have 3 potentially high upside wide receivers for 2 spots and a half PPR is pretty good. When you look at half PPR versus full PPR, how does that change the way you look at wide receivers and running backs?
Not a ton. I try not to let it sway too much. Obviously, those slot guys, those PPR guys, take a slight hit to their value there. But all in all, it doesn't change a ton for me. If I'm betting on a guy in his situation, whether it's PPR or not, really isn't going to sway me one way or another. So much as it's just a volume thing.
Yep. I like that. Yeah. Do you prioritize running backs more in half PPR, or does it just not even matter?
I think it just kind of levels the playing field a little bit more, and running backs, especially those guys that you are expecting to catch 30, 40, 50 potentially balls. Those are the guys that you really want to try to hang your hat on. But this year, it seems like there's just so much depth at the running back position that you can wait if you don't get one of those top tier options and just kind of load up on these guys that are in a little bit more of an ambiguous situation and potentially strike a little gold mine there.
Yep. Okay, let's talk a little bit here about QB. We got our pick coming up here in a little bit. So we are round 5, round 6. I think we're just starting. So pick 61. Jalen Daniels is ADP 76, so that's 7th round, but I don't mind coming up for him in the 6th round here. What do you think about that?
Is he your preferred QB option of those who are left on the board?
I honestly wouldn't mind. I like Jalen Daniels and Preston Stone quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't get them, then a Grayson McCall is a guy that I wouldn't mind. John Mateer is one a bit later, but we had a pretty extensive conversation about him last night where if you get John Mateer, you gotta stack him or handcuff him with Xavier Eckhouse because it's currently a pretty close battle there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and having a handcuff when you have 20 roster spots
in this format, right.
But it is like a QB room that will average 25 points a game. So in this format, that can be very valuable. But Jalen Daniels and Preston Stone, I think Jalen Daniels has the upside, right? Because he's got the rushing upside.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy schedule, weeks 12 through 14. So you got BYU, Colorado, and Baylor. And And overall, the schedule is really, really easy for Kansas this year. So I do like them for those reasons. Oh,
There goes Daniels.
yep. So I don't mind actually just going Nick Singleton here.
I like that.
So let's take him. We can talk about him for a few minutes before we come back around. I'll probably grab Preston Stone here right after this just to make sure that we lock up a second QB.
Yeah.
Because they're going to start going off the board here. But Nick Singleton, man. I mean, so Penn State, do you know much about their new offensive coordinator?
No, not a ton.
Okay. So Andy Kolodnicki is his name. He comes over from Kansas. So he was with Lance Leopold, who's basically had 1,000-yard back for like 8 out of the last 10 seasons. I mean, between Buffalo and Kansas, and he was at Mount Union, Division III school before that, where they absolutely dominated. And so Andal Kononicki's really been his protege for years, and so he's kind of out from under his wing for the first time. But they run a super creative offense and get the ball. They basically get their playmakers the ball in space. So they did a lot with Devin Neal last year. I think he had like 1,200 yards rushing on 6 yards per carry. And you just see the way they use Devin Neal, and you can totally see Nick Singleton thriving in that type of role where you just let this kid who's 220 and 10.8 just get the ball and run outside. I'm going to pick Preston Stone here.
Go for it.
Just so we have that second QB locked up. It's a little early for him, but I don't want to be caught. So here's the thing that earlier, I threw up that comment that talked about getting 4 QBs. I think we're going to have to go 5 QBs because Preston Stone's got 3 buys this year, and we picked Jackson Arnold, who's got a week 12 bye. So we're going to have to be conscious of both of those things as we're drafting here. So I think we're going to need to go 5 QBs for this build that we're doing here, personally. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. There's still a ton of guys that I have a lot of interest in on the board there.
Yeah. Are there some QBs this year? I mean, I know you're just switching over from WNBA, but any QBs that have kind of piqued your interest? Have you've been studying up so far or catching up?
It's really just those top guys that I've gotten a little bit more familiar with, and some of the guys that are returning from this past season as well. Getting up to speed on some of the guys that are in new situations. And a lot of it is you can project so much, but you really just kind of have to see it too, whether it's over the first couple of weeks or later. But there's a lot of change, a lot of turnover. What it feels like this year, I know it happens every year, but this year it feels like it's twofold with, the transfer portal just blowing everything wide open.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's so many more, I think, solid options, now than there's really ever been at the QB position with the transfer portal. So, talk about a couple running backs here, maybe in a minute. So we got 2 running backs so far, and 3 wide receivers and 2 quarterbacks. So I really love these wide receivers. I think we can probably wait for a while on wide receivers. So for me, maybe I'll start putting tight ends in the queue, but I don't mind hammer running backs. This is a range where I think I've seen some really good value here that I can talk about here in a minute. And then try to get some. Yeah, he's a guy that we were talking about last night. We both really loved him. What's your take on Luke?
I like him. I liked him a lot last year, and it sucks. The injury came back to bite. You mentioned injuries at the position earlier, and so some concerns there. But I still see a couple of guys available that have tight end 1 upside. Haas being one of them, Justin Jolly being another guy that could really get you there. So, it's a position that I don't feel like you need to spend a ton of capital on. But again, if you're going to get a couple of these guys that have that upside, I really don't want to have more than 3 tight ends, I think, on my roster. is kind of where I'm cutting it off at. But I'd love to get one of these types of prospects that you can kind of hang your hat on a little bit more, and then just kind of fill it in with some other upside depth pieces there at the position.
Yeah, I really like that. Man, I think there's still some really good value here in the 8th round. One of the guys I was just clicking on just went, but you got Denzel Boston, Washington wide receiver. He's the projected wide receiver 1. I mean, they've just talked about they love him there at Washington, and the new coach Jed Fish, he peppers his wide receiver 1 a ton, 100+ targets, probably come from him. And then even right here, I'm gonna wait for his pick. So, Caden Fegan just went. That's a really good pick there. Took a couple shares of him. Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm gonna take Cam Cook here. He's a. Go ahead.
No, I love it.
Yeah. So Cook is the running back 1 for Kendall Briles. The Briles system is one for years. That's been great to us for running backs. But last year, Imani Bailey was pretty good. And so Cook in drafts that have all FBS teams, so 134 teams in them, Cam Cook will go round 10. So to get him at the end of round 8, almost round 9, is really, really good value here for him. And so I really like Cam Cook. Any thoughts on Cam Cook?
No, I think that's a solid guy to add to our room that we have going here. Where are you on as far as, if you were wanting to target a guy like Hoover, let's say now, are you leaning into either a running back or the pass catching options, or are you willing to diversify the portfolio and kind of just load up on an offense that you're expecting to be good and put up 35+ points every week? Let the cards kind of fall where they may, and at least be able to say you have a piece of it.
Yeah, I think let the cards fall where they may. I think there's obviously some strategy, right? And a guy like Hoover, like stacking him with a wide receiver there. But man, a TCU offense has, Sonny Dykes is the head coach there. He always has a good offense. So just have pieces, right? I mean, there might be one week that Cam Cook is the one that goes off and gets the touchdowns. And yeah. So I think in this format, just loading up on really good offenses, which again, that's what we're doing here. Essentially, you look at our wide receiver room, you got took Denzel Boston, Isaiah Bond in Oklahoma. Those are all like really good offenses and really good play callers. And then again, you look at our, running back room, Texas Tech, Zach Kitley, Penn State, Andy Klubnicki, TCU, you got Kendall Briles, and then come back with Preston Stone, that Rhett Lashley, SMU offense is really good. And then obviously Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. They always have a great offense. So, what we're doing here is we're just targeting really good offenses. And I think there's even guys that we can stack later with some of these quarterbacks that we got too.
Looking at the comments here, Josh, where are you on yours? He mentioned in the comments that, we got Bond locked in and passing over yours. So where are you on him?
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing where I think in any kind of college fantasy football, you don't really need a stack because we really like dual threat quarterbacks in this format. And so if I was to have gone Quinn Ewers first, then I would want to then stack him with a wide receiver, but I don't think you have to do that in every case. And so Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's a guy that threw for 3,400 yards last year, but only had like 24 fantasy points per game, right? And that's not enough in this format to really move the needle. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode on like Quinn Ewers. But, I think on Isaiah Bond, he's got a little bit more high upside again as that wide receiver 1 that's going to get targeted quite a bit in that offense.
Father Whale took our guy, Haas.
He did. Okay. Well, we can, we got a couple different options here. I think we can wait a little bit if we wanted.
Get that RJ Maryland stone stack.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. We are coming, round 10, so getting into that 120th, 100 and whatever, 8th to 120th ADP. So, Father Well just went Montreal Johnson. That's another guy that I've really liked in this range.
Great pick.
Yeah, he's a guy that he's not going to have a lot of competition, in that backfield. So he should be the number one guy.
Yeah, and I feel like they're going to try to lean on him a little bit more this year too. So not only being the only guy with the departure of ETN, but just kind of getting back to what Florida does best, I think, which is establish the run and work off the play action.
Yeah. I think I'm going to try to come back around. Probably try to go quarterback here, and might just bite the bullet here and take John if he's still there. Try to get quarterback. I probably will stack him with the Eckhouse at the end, but get a guy. Man, we are at what? We're at two QBs. A couple guys I like at the end here that we could get. I'm gonna go Mateer and see what we got. Coming back here. I say I don't know.
There goes Jolly.
Okay. Yeah, Jolly just went.
Green.
I think I'm going to target a running back here. And I do like pieces of the NC State offense. Mm-hmm. So North Carolina State, they got Robert Nye as their OC. I think that offense is going to be awesome this year. Repeatedly I listen to a lot of NC State podcasts, and repeatedly the beat writers at 247 are saying, man, Jordan Waters is a dude, and they're going to feature him in this offense. They wouldn't be surprised if he gets 18 to 20 carries a game. And, in an offense like this, where they're going to score a lot of points, they have a lot of weapons. I think he's a guy that could get 10 plus touchdowns. So having that touchdown upside in a half PPR format is really good. I like the value here. All right, start filling our queue back up. And seeing what we got here. We're at 3. Some guys that I've been getting later in drafts is Childs. Got Brock Vandegrift, who's got a really nice week 12 bye. But we could go Childs and try to go Eckhouse at the end. Let's see what Childs. He's got Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers to end the year. So pretty good schedule, because again, we got Jackson Arnold to week 12. We got to make sure that,
right,
our week 12 is set. Washington State's got New Mexico that week, right? So that should be able to put up some points that week.
Yeah.
So as long as somebody doesn't snipe us on Eckhouse at the end, that'll be a nice little guy. And then Childs is just a guy that's got a lot of upside. SMU for that week, because we got Preston Stone. They have Boston College in week 12. So also a pretty good matchup. They played them in the bowl game and were able to put up some points. Preston Stone was injured for that game, so he wasn't able to play. So he was out. All right, I'm going to start filling this back up. We got
up to 9 picks.
Yeah. So we got Jaquindon Jackson's gone over from Arkansas to Arkansas from Utah. So that's a fun little deal. What do you think about, let's see, Mason Taylor is coming up here. He's LSU tight end. Could go. I mean, you look at these. We could go Jordan Hudson coming up in a little bit. Let's see where ADP's at. Chris Brazel's a guy that I've been targeting a bit. He's the outside wide receiver for Tennessee.
Came from the Ohio.
Yeah, Chris Brazel was at Tulane last year.
Tulane, that was it.
Yeah, and it's pretty good over there. All right, let's see. We got 4 picks, so we're up. I say we take Mason Taylor if he's there, just to get an A tight end in that range.
Sam Brown still on the board.
Yeah, I like Sam Brown a lot. He's another guy that I wouldn't mind. Wouldn't mind going after. Oh, Brazil just went, and we are on the board. All right, let's go Mason Taylor. Maybe come back around with Sam Brown. Jordan Hudson's another one that we could go pretty soon. Pair him up with Preston Stone. Oh,
there goes Sam Brown. Carp,
yeah.
Come on, buddy. What the hell?
I know, man. Killing us.
He should be working on his chip game.
I know. Instead of sniping us in this draft, for sure.
Know. Ridiculous.
All right, Katron Allen, to fear my turtle. Yeah, I'm hoping that we can wait on some of these. You know, again, you see this lull in quarterback. I'll kind of pull the draft board back up here in a minute after Harkins just went.
So we're at 3-4-4-1 right now as far as the build goes.
All right, let's do. We're gonna do Hemby here, Maryland, and I think then, I mean, so far we got Brooks, Singleton, Cook, Waters, Hemby.
I hope they let it be Hemby's team this year.
I know, dude.
Yeah. Dude's got all the talent. They didn't go to him enough. Tagovailoa just chucking it up down the field, getting sacked. Hemby's a beast, man. I hope that they really do lean on him, let him showcase a little bit more this year.
Yeah. Man, while we're sitting here, can you look up? Actually, I might look it up too. See what Roman Hemby did in that bowl game. I can't remember. I know Maryland went ham in that bowl game. They won 31-13. I thought that he had a pretty decent game. I could be wrong. But it was interesting because like Tagovailoa didn't play that game. I guess Hemby only had 7. Yeah. Only had a catch for 61 yards. Yeah. So frustrating, man. I mean, Hemby would 61 yards for a catch, and then they don't use him, right? Seven carries for 17 yards. But when they did feature him in that offense, he was really talented.
The offense just altogether last year didn't look good at really any point during the season. Yeah.
And I do think that, like, with them going to MJ Morris or Billy Edwards, they'll have to rely on Hemby more than they did with Tagovailoa. I mean, I think Talia, either he set the Big Ten record for passing or, something crazy over like his 3-year stretch. So they just depended on him way too much for my liking. Okay. I'm going to start looking at some filling back our queue with some wide receivers here. See what we got. Chris Hudson at the top here in the ADP board. You can see here though, like, man, wide receivers really start to dry up quite a bit, which is why I did like going 4 wide receivers early, because you get down to the bottom of the third and there's just not a lot here that I love. I'm gonna switch this to my rankings just to see who comes to the top. One of the guys that we were talking about last night on the stream that hasn't really gotten a lot of love. But JD was talking about him was Dejon Stribling. And so he's an outside wide receiver at Oklahoma State, but he got injured last year, which is what allowed Rashad Owens to go off. But Gundy apparently recently said that Stribling's a guy they really want to lean on. They feel like he's an NFL caliber wide receiver. And so you got Gundy saying that, and he was I think he was the top outside wide receiver before he got hurt there in that offense.
That offense was really fun to watch last year, and it wasn't just Ollie Gordon. I mean, they were chucking it 40 plus times a game, what felt like most weeks, and got into shootout after shootout after shootout. I think getting a piece of that offense again this year with not a ton changing is smart. So I'm with that.
Well, and he's a guy you just don't have to spend a lot of draft capital on either. So he's a guy you can wait on until the end. Another guy that I think is like worth taking shots on here later in the draft. See if I can pull him up here.
A little QB run here.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna snag Giles here, call it a day on QBs until the very end, just so we can get our guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all kind of in the same boat here too. 3 QBs. Guys behind us have Fear Martello's got 5 running backs. Carp Golf has 5.
Yeah, they're mostly hurting at tight end, wide receiver.
Yeah. Okay. I will go ahead.
Yeah, go. No, I was saying you're up.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Childs here. And then I'm gonna come back around, and if we can get him, I'm gonna try to get Jordan Hudson here.
Okay.
Pair him up. But
where are you on
go ahead.
Benjamin Eurosec, tight end UGA?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that has a lot of value. I don't really understand why people aren't higher on him. What do you think?
I like him. I think he's a unit. I think there's a huge hole, obviously, there to fill for UGA. It is an offense that seems like, while, yes, they're predominantly always running the ball, they have opened up a little bit more. Delp obviously still there is, I think, the one thing that's keeping his value from being, a top 10 tight end selected. Just the consistency of Delp. He's kind of a fan favorite as well. It's the whole 2 tight ends, you have 0 tight ends aspect, I think, is really what's going to keep either one of them from being, a top 10 guy this year.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was a little disappointing that, when we saw, the main tight end. Oh my gosh, how am I blanking on his name? Brock Bowers. When we saw Brock Bowers go down last year, that Delp didn't just take a stranglehold on that job,
I know.
It would have been nice for us even this year to really figure out whether Delp was going to be the guy. But then when they bring in Eurosec, that creates all sorts of concerns about what that looks like. All right. Let's see what the board's shaping up to right now. So we did see that run on QBs in round 14, right? But before that, two QBs go rounds 12, 13. So you see a lot of people, not really liking the value in that range. And then we saw a huge wide receiver run in rounds 13 and 14. So pretty interesting. Any observations of yours kind of as you look at the board?
I do feel like we are getting to that point where the QB is getting into more of desperation selections at this point, kind of just shoring up the back end of your QB run. You really don't want to be without your guys getting into, let's call it round 12 and beyond, or you're going to be faced with that decision of really wanting to roster 5, 6 QBs.
Because you're just not sure.
Yeah, it's drying up. Is this guy you're worried about week 12 buys? Is this guy still going to have his job come week 12? We're kind of getting into those guys here. And do you want to bet on a guy that's maybe going to take somebody's job, by that point? So I think getting those QBs semi early just allows you to be so much more flexible and not use up those extra roster spots on guys that may not even have the starting gig come week 12, week 13.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement with you. I think one of the things that we were talking about last night too was like, we looked at we got Graham Mertz late, and we were talking about, oh, he's got, Florida has a nice week 12 game. And then JD asked me, yeah, do you think Graham Mertz has the job in week 12? And I'm like, yeah, there's like a 40% chance that he doesn't have that job. And so I 100% agree.
He's got to perform. He's got to perform, keep his foot on the gas all year. They've got a guy in the wings right now that the fan base is already starting to chomp at the bit to see more of, look really good in spring ball. So I wouldn't say, his job is secure this year by any means. I think that they could definitely turn the reins over to my guy Lagway.
Yeah, totally. And again, like that's where it goes. Like, man, if Lagway took over that job at the end of that year, like, okay, they have LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. I mean, LSU and Ole Miss, you could just be chucking the ball up, I mean, those could be. Lagway is the type of guy, again, you don't want to necessarily like, we're going to do it, right? Where we're going to, handcuff at the end of this draft with Mateer and Eckhouse. But, you just kind of like wonder with a guy like Lagway, it's a thing that, okay, that's a wasted roster spot, and that can be super dangerous. But,
it is, but it's also a guy that, like, if you do get a couple of those early-ish QBs in that you're going to lean on throughout the year and that you're going to have, throwing QB5, maybe even QB6, is a little deep, but throwing at one of those with a true upside piece like that's going to also, potentially he's not even getting drafted in a ton of these. So you're differentiating yourself from the field drastically with a pick like that. And we know a guy like that has, his similar prototype are the guys that we're drafting in these first 3 rounds. So if somebody like him all of a sudden gets opened up and has full reign, and that offense this year, they've got a couple of solid receiving options. So you throw a dual threat who's got good quality receivers in there. I mean, the sky's the limit for something like that. But you could also be, if Mertz comes out and has a solid campaign, you could be looking at an absolute zero throughout the year. And like you said, we don't get too many roster spots in this format, so wasting one feels shitty. But I love upside pieces like that, especially at the end of my drafts.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're not gonna win the best ball mania by playing it safe at the end, right? So there is guys like, again, like Lagway that could absolutely score points. We saw what Avery Johnson and Nico did in bowl games. Both of them scored 30 fantasy points in their bowl games when they took over. And that was against Iowa and North Carolina State, good defenses. So these like high profile 5-star quarterbacks that are waiting in the wings. And look, Florida's got the hardest schedule in all of college football. People are saying it might be the hardest schedule in the history of college football. And if they're, say they're 3-6 or 3-7, well, yeah, let's say they're 3-6. Well, the last 3 weeks of the season, they might just throw Lagway in. So, Billy Napier can try to save his job and show what they got with Lagway, and see what happens. So Lagway is absolutely a guy at the end of these drafts. The more and more I talk about it, it sounds great. I'm sure there's a lot of downsides.
No, like I said, I mean, you absolutely assume the risk that he may not do anything for you. But I mean, the way that they're talking about him, I don't think that it's going to take a ton to maybe even get him incorporated into the offense while Mertz still does have the starting gig. And something like that is just a crack. You give a guy that's that explosive, even a sliver of light, and instantly you can't go away from him. Whether or not you hand him the reins completely, you want to start incorporating him more and more, and then all of a sudden you're seeing what Mertz can't do, right?
Yep.
And then now all of a sudden you're feeling like you're getting behind. Now, even if Mertz is playing well, that could still happen. But I think if he plays poor, then it's not going to take a ton for the Gators to want to go to Lagway.
Yeah, totally. All right, I'm going to switch gears here. We got 3 rounds left in this draft. So we got 4 QBs, 6 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. So let's talk a little bit. I want to try to get Eckhouse, kind of make sure we got that handcuff here with the next pick. And then I think I want to go a wide receiver. And so I'm going to talk to you about Noah Rogers and Deshaun Stribling. So I think those are not talking about Stribling. Father will take him.
I was leaning that way too.
I know. Okay, so let's we can throw some more wide receivers in here. I think at this point in the draft, I don't know, maybe Brooks already went too. Ja'Cory Brooks. Let's see. Yeah, Ja'Cory Brooks already went as well, but there's usually guys like a Ja'Cory Brooks, a Deshaun Stribling that are going to be high upside guys that just aren't getting taken, but they have the right offense. So Noah Rogers is another one of those where we've seen Robert and I feature the outside wide receiver and Dontavian Wicks and some other guys. And they've really had some high production. Noah Rogers is a former 5-star that's at Ohio State. And then he transfers over to NC State. They really like him there. They're high on him. Obviously, they have Kevin Concepcion already. But he is a guy that could have, kind of sneaky upside in that offense. Let's see. So he's a guy. I mean, there's another maybe I was just looking at Xavier Thomas. I don't know where he went. Let's see. Xavier Thomas is another guy like that. I know our boy and co-host CFF All Access. Oh, we are up. Let's see if we can get this in real quick. Did they give it to us? Oh, last second. All right, I guess you know where my heart lies. But Xavier Thomas, real quick for that, conversation to tie it up. Xavier Thomas is a guy that I know that Froton likes a lot as the potential wide receiver 2 or 1 in offense for LSU, which could be really valuable. I'm personally a Chris Hilton guy, but I think if you can get Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton, CJ Daniels, those are all kind of those. I think the wide receiver 2 potentially in the LSU offense that we saw was super explosive last year. A couple guys here at the end that could be interesting. Just from a value perspective, we did lock up Ziva Eckhouse there, but we could go. We currently have 2 tight ends, and Mason Taylor and Brahmer. I think both those guys are actually pretty good tight ends.
Are you comfortable sticking with 2 tight ends with those 2 guys?
I don't. I never feel great. But with a guy like CJ Donaldson here, he's a guy that if Jaheim White was to get hurt, with a sole running back and an offense that's going to be built around the run game.
Yeah.
And he just could really have high upside. Let's see what West Virginia at the end of the year has got Baylor, UCF, and Texas Tech. So it's a nice schedule down the stretch. I don't know. Am I being overly concerned about injuries at the tight end position?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it seems like year in and year out, almost feels like tight end is the one that you get burnt on the most. Maybe it's because, we don't have as much depth at the position, especially in these drafts. But, It's also one of those things. If you get burnt early, then you're probably toast anyway. So sitting here trying to cover your end, so what? That you can finish in fourth instead of last. Like
Right.
first or last, baby, first or last.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, okay, our options on the board that I have are Elijah Arroyo, Seydou Traore, and Cole Taylor. And you know, Traore is like he could be awesome or he could be a dud in that, in the Jeff Levy system in that offense. But and he just went. Oh no, and then Cole Taylor, who he just went here. And then Elijah Arroyo, like, look, I don't see Arroyo. They got 3 wide receivers that had 800 yards receiving last year in that offense. I don't see Elijah Arroyo being more than a 300-yard, 7 touchdown guy, right? So what, you're talking about 7 fantasy points? I guess at the end of the day, if Taylor and Brahmer both get hurt, I mean,
Right.
7 fantasy points probably isn't winning you the league anyways.
Right. I want all the upside at the end of the draft. I mean, essentially, we've got our main bucket of players that we're hoping to be pulling from each and every week. So, if something goes wrong with those, I don't want a safety net coming in behind them. I want somebody that's coming in behind them that has the potential to usurp them and outproduce them. Not give me a fraction of what I was hoping to get from the individual that got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree there.
If we don't take DJ Lagway with our last pick at this point, I don't know what we're doing here.
You want to go 6 QBs?
No, I think we're good. We got the Washington State, so
yeah. Let's put them in the queue as if we're down to nothing left, then
you have to sell me on somebody else's upside. We did a good job with Lagway there.
Yeah, we crushed him on the upside. Let's see. And again, like, okay, CJ Donaldson's got the upside that we just talked about at West Virginia. I mean, in that offense for sure. But the rest of these guys, Daniel Highshaw is the only other one. Oh, Traore just went. So that made that pick pretty easy. I'm going to go Donaldson. I do think, though, if you want to grab Mertz late in drafts, because let's see if Mertz even went.
Still available.
Looks like is he still available?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna take a look at this team. All right. Let's break down this team real quick. We're gonna kind of say, all right, what is the ceiling of this team, and then if this team, like, worst case scenario. So best case, worst case scenario here. So we got Jackson Arnold, Preston Stone. We locked up the Washington State QBs, Mateer and Eckhouse, and then Childs. Then we went 7 running backs here, which I don't mind that. Taj Brooks, Nick Singleton, Cam Cook, Jordan Waters, Roman Hemby, Le'Veon Moss, and CJ Donaldson. And then wide receiver, we made sure to lock up Burden early, and then got Burks, Bond, and Boston, and then Jordan Hudson and Noah Rogers near the end of the draft. And then we came back with only 2 tight ends, Mason Taylor and Ben Brahmer. Okay. Thoughts on this draft? Best case, worst case scenario. Give it to me.
I mean, I don't mind the draft, honestly. It does feel like we kind of have our sure things at the top of each position that we're going to lean into the most, and then we just have some kind of more upside picks following in behind them, which is exactly what I was kind of trying to do with this draft, I think. So, all in all, I think we're pretty well balanced. I don't think we have any glaring weaknesses per se with this team. It just feels like a well-balanced build.
Yeah, I do feel like going, Burden, Burks, Bond, and Boston there. I think that creates such a solid core. I actually really like these wide receivers. It might be my favorite wide receiver build so far. And then, again, running backs. I mean, we got value on Brooks and Singleton. Cook, Waters, all of those guys can be pretty good. I feel like our flex position will have a solid 5th option. So, man, it's just tough with quarterback, I mean, you either got to invest a lot early or, have some guys that can fall to you. It's tough to get two solid QBs in the first 3 rounds, in my opinion, because you're gonna have to probably, like, we reached on Jackson Arnold because we had to make sure that we got a QB. So it's a little risky there in that range. Yeah, I like this build. I mean, I think, again, I look at that and I go, it's not foolproof because of the tight ends, but overall it's a pretty darn good build in my opinion. Man, this was a ton of fun getting to draft with you. It's gonna be fun getting to work together this year. You're gonna be writing our night slates for DraftKings on Saturday nights, and I'm super excited about that. And you're also running our social media account, and so you've been doing a heck of a job. So any of the tweets that you guys see from at FantasyPTSCFB is from Dan Brown, and he does a heck of a job. And we're super excited for this year. So I appreciate you, man, hopping on here, and excited for you joining the team this year at Fantasy Points. Real quick before we leave, our underdog deal, I don't want to miss this. We have, again, matching deal on underdog up to $500. They'll give you $250, 50% matching. Promo code is Fantasy PTS. And then also you get $55 off of our college football subscription package at Fantasy Points. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are going to take the day off tomorrow. My son is in a pretty big all-star tournament tomorrow all day, so I'll be out. But we'll come back on Saturday night with another draft with Matt Wisbay. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And until next time, do small things with great love.
What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.